Right, we might as well get started, everyone. So thanks for joining us. Welcome to our third webinar in the series. The first one was around the race rules. The second one was from a runner's perspective. And this one this evening is all about the support crew. There's two people that are kind of very familiar with being support crew, and we're going to get them to have a chat with us later. But what we'll do to get things kicked off tonight is we'll just go into a quick presentation, and what we'll do is we'll just get through like a race update and tell you where things are up to, and then we can get into the Q&A with the actual support crew. So just let me know if you can actually see this screen. Are we all good? Can
Yes,
you see that?
we can see.
Cool. Don't want to run into the problems we did the last time. We weren't sharing it properly and it wasn't advancing. Is that good? Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So Greg, you want to take us away, please?
Thanks, Mickey, and also in kicking us off, certainly just want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands upon which we meet in our various locations this evening, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and their ongoing connection to the land. For Coast to Kosci 2021, we're approaching final race readiness, a touch over 2 weeks now, and we're looking good. It has been, no doubt for you as runners, a little bit of a challenging journey with some of the uncertainty, changing travel restrictions, etc., and how that's actually made it difficult for training. But similarly, as race organisers, that's made it quite challenging as well. And we've needed to, pivot's probably too strong a word, but make a couple of changes progressively as we go, and then wait for things to unfold. And again, that's an example of why applications were touched later this year, and also the announcement of runners and all those things as well. That's just an element of that. About 2/3 of runners have responded to the waiver. Have uploaded their vaccination certificates, restated their crew chief, provided breakfast information, payments, etc. So we thank you for that. We ask you again to get that done for Thursday, particularly though, and it's really essential actually for those joining us for the breakfast as part of the prior to the presentation, as we have to confirm final numbers to Gindervine on Friday morning. So thank you for the positive response to that today. A couple of the probably more topical things, but the snow conditions, we're monitoring that with National Parks and Wildlife Service, and in fact meeting with them tomorrow. There are no extra requirements at this stage. A number of you will have seen some of the shots shared on by the page by Pam Muston, and yet a lot of snow, but they've also had a lot of rainfall over the last week. In fact, there's a lot of rain foreshadowed for the rest of the week, possibly even some snowfalls even, but a lot of rain for the rest of the week. So we'll just continue liaising with National Parks. At this stage, there's no requirement for additional equipment. You will see very clearly in the mandatory equipment, trekking poles are mandatory for runners, and that's for the Charlotte Pass to the Summit leg, that the runner must have that, and it's highly desirable for support crew that are summiting as well. And as usually, it's most likely going to be the traverse from Rawson's across, where most of the snow and the piece will be. So we'll just liaise with you, but at this moment, no changes to mandatory equipment. The final field is 33. Okay, so it's a smaller Coast to Kosci this year, and that again ties back to a lot of those impacts on travel restrictions. A lot of people could get to the race, they weren't sure if they could get home, or they were going to have to, them and their support crew were going to have to take 2 weeks to get home. So we had a lot of dejected, disappointed runners from interstate unable to participate this year. So we have a final field of 33, and we will communicate out the names of those 33. It's those that were announced, less the dropouts, and just after that announcement, Adrian Watmore and also Nikki Wind were added to the field after the original announcement. So we'll communicate those out soon, so you'll be able to see who's there, bib numbers and stuff as well. So we'll do that over the coming week or two for you. Look, other changes last year, we had 3 ambulance vehicles, including the smaller field this year. That the requirement will just drop back to 2, but just to be able to share that with you. Thanks, Mickey.
So some reminders, do we want to just kind of like make sure that you're across? And this is a new one that's not been present prior to like the 2021 event, and it kind of comes in a little bit with COVID, but it's a New South Wales police requirement that we can't have more than 2 abreast at any time. They're also stipulating that there's a single file on bridges. So just bear both of those in mind. Couple of new National Parks and Wildlife Services requirements that came through. So if everybody knows what a cairn is, it's a Scottish word in actual fact, derived from the word cairn. And it's usually just a wee mound of stones that, you know, people put together to landmark a particular summit or some kind of place of interest. But it's at the top of Mount Kosciuszko. It's called Strzelecki Monument. That's easy for me to say. But there's no climbing on it, so make sure that you don't jump atop it. Otherwise, we're going to be in deep water from National Parks Wildlife Services. The other thing that gets us into deep water is with National Parks Wildlife Services is the parking up at Charlotte Pass. And when you're up there, please do not park in that 20-minute zone. You know, avoid that at all costs. So just some reminders there. Gregory?
The route at this stage is in good shape. Just a little tweak and a reminder, and this is for those who are familiar with the route before. When you leave the Jindabyne Caravan Park through that gate, you exit and turn left up towards Kosciuszko Road. You do bend back around to the service station, and that's where the checkpoint marker is. And you should go onto the road at the service station. So in that stage, you're back on bitumen. There's a couple little tracks and bits and pieces that actually do head off and shadow the road. Please don't take those. Move up onto the road correctly and properly. That's generally in pretty good condition. There's no fire alerts or anything along those at this stage. And as always, just show extra care at Big Jack Mountain. It's narrow, as you're well aware, and just extra care there. And just the continuing piece of no stopping or parking under trees. And that just remains simply as ongoing issues relating to bushfire damaged trees. Most of the places have all been cleaned up, but it just remains there's some challenges there as well with that.
Some logistics. So there's going to be a mandatory race briefing. That's on the Wednesday evening before the actual race start. In terms of gear collection, same as last year. Meet on the Thursday. We're down at this lookout in Rotary Park, which is at the Eden Lookout. Just jump onto Google Maps. It's the end of Imlay Street. So we're going to open that up between 5 and 6:30 p.m. And what we also need you to do when you're collecting your gear is to show us the results of a COVID test that was done less than 3 days beforehand. So that's still mandatory, and we need everybody to comply with that. That impacts everybody, runners, support crew, and us kind of officials as well. And then it'd be great if you could kind of support those that support us. And remember to bring cash. Yep, good old cash. Bring it along for Toowoomba, and you can have a brilliant breakfast, or even the Cathcart General Store. They usually stock up on a few things, and then Dalgety Hall. So just bring a few dollars and cents along for those things and support those who support us.
Thanks, Mickey. Just to touch more on that, with Toowoomba, besides their barbecue menu, which we'll look to post on social media prior to the event, and prices and stuff, they usually have calendars and key rings and school mugs and that stuff. Any dollars you could send their way are greatly appreciated, and it really helps their school, and it's their biggest fundraiser, and it's out of area money for them, which is really important. With Dalgety Hall, soups and coffees, etc., provided by the event for your support crew there. And the local cafe is putting that on, and that's fully catered, and that's covered within your entry fees. However, they're also anticipating selling a few food bars and packs of chips and those sorts of stuff. That's not covered by the event. So if your support crew do go in there, soup, tea and coffee are covered by us. But if there's any extras, they're covered separately by yourselves. Toilets, you're generally familiar with the toilets along the site. But public toilets at, first of all, I'm sorry, step back. There'll be no toilets at the start line, just to remember that, be very clear about that. So firstly, make sure you take care of business in town, so to speak. And then secondly, please don't use bushes or any of that sort of stuff. Just have respect for that. Public toilets are open at Toowoomba, Rocky Hall, Big Jack, at the base of Big Jack there, Cathcart, and also Dalgety Hall, and they'll be fully stocked with non-government issued toilet paper and also sanitizer for your comfort and also for your COVID safety. And also there's a new toilet now at Seaman's Hut, which is about, it's about probably 100 metres walk off the track, but there is a new toilet block there open is now.
It's just to the right of the hut, Greg, yeah. And people, please don't piss in the hut. Make sure you actually pee in the toilet.
Yeah. And just the last point then with Dalgety Bridge, and this is particularly important for those who have done the event before, the cutoff is not at Dalgety Hall. The cutoff is actually at Dalgety Bridge. So you have to have left the hall and got to the bridge and being across the bridge. That's the cutoff point.
There's a question that's just come in at the chat there, and it's about the COVID test, and they're asking, is it to be taken 3 days prior to the start or at the check-in? What we need you to do is actually get a COVID test at least 3 days prior to the start. Is that cool? Okay, last slide, and then we'll get into the support crew. So we'll publish this on the website, and you can actually get a little bit more familiar with it. But basically, it's the same setup, same format, roughly, as previous years and previous years before that. So on the Thursday, grab your gear. That's between 5 and 6:30. On the morning, we're asking people just to register a little bit earlier than usual. So in between the minutes of 4:50 and 5 o'clock. We've got a bit of a welcome to country that's happening that morning, and we want to make sure that everybody's in attendance for that. Usual race start 5:30, usual cut-off zones, cut-off times, and then like the race finish 46 hours later at Charlotte Pass. That's the cut-off time. And then on the Sunday morning, we'll get the post-race breakfast. For those who have signed up for the breakfast, great. That's between 7 and 8:45. And that's at the Jindabyne Sport and Rec place. And they put on a brilliant breakfast, by the way. It's a hot and cold buffet. And then at 9 o'clock, in the actual dining hall in the Jindabyne Sport and Rec, it's looking good for us all to be congregated in the one place. And that kicks off at 9 o'clock, so that's the race presentation. Just going to the chat again. Somebody's got a crew member that can't be in Eden on Thursday. Can they provide their COVID test results when they arrive on Friday night? Let's work that one out, because we want to just make sure that we cut down on admin and anything prior to the event as much as possible. So let's get back to you on that one, take that one on notice, work out the best way. One more question, Mickey. 3 days prior to the event would mean that the earliest we could all get the COVID test is from Tuesday morning. Is that correct as the earliest time? That is correct. Because some places take a wee bit of time to actually get your results back. Normally you get them back within like 24 hours, but some places it can take up to 72. Okay, any more questions jumping into the chat before we move on?
Mickey?
Yo.
With that 72 hours, for the COVID test, when you have your test, you're supposed to be in isolation till you get the results back, aren't you?
Yeah, but the chances are that you're not going to be positive, you would hope.
No.
So I'm
So
okay to actually waive that.
But
Yeah.
you just people have to be careful if they use their check-in app, because that'll be linked.
Yep. And actually, you don't need to stay in isolation anymore if you don't have any symptoms.
Oh, okay. So that's but then you have to pay for the test.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
no.
go to the drive-through.
Rightio. Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah, you don't need to pay for the test, Pam.
Just go to the drive-through.
Okay.
Cool. Let's move on then. Without further ado, let me introduce you to two people that are going to kind of help us out with some support crew queries, hints and tips. So first person is Hully, otherwise known as Michael Hull. Hully's ran the Kosci once, but he's been a support crew a few times. The picture I grabbed there is actually Hully's. Well, he is quite a good looker in actual fact, but I decided to show his wife instead. And this is when Hully and myself were actually crewing for Bronwyn and 3 more girls when they did the Oxfam Trail Walker. So thanks, Hully, for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.
Cheers, Hully. And is Kimberly with us? No, she's not managed to make it.
I know. Kirli's sort of moved a little bit inland, and she has said her internet is questionable at times. So she may struggle at times and may drop in and out. So she may join us. So in the
what I might do, right, is thinking on my feet here. Greg, do you mind just standing in and helping out Hully so that we can get an alternative viewpoint, maybe on the support group?
Indeed.
All right, cool. So let me ask you, Hully, first question. What are the essential ingredients of being a top-notch support crew?
You got to have a runner. That's pretty essential. Mate, I think there's two things from a crew point of view. It's teamwork and communication. It's pretty simple. You're out there a long time, so you've got to be able to communicate. And if you've got a happy crew, you're going to have a happy runner in theory. So everyone's got to know their role within the team, and just try and not get on anybody's nerves.
And I think to add to that, Mickey, is certainly to be organised with that and to make sure you take care of stuff and just let the runner run. The runner doesn't have to know when things go wrong, or if there's issues or challenges between the support crew. If they're less important to the runner, and that just means they can run, just take care of it.
So just staying with that train of thought then, Greg, what do you need from your runner? What do the support crew need from their runner?
I think it's like probably initially clear direction, which is usually a plan about what you want and when or how you want it. Very clear communication about how far to go ahead for the leapfrog type process, but just making sure that they keep you calm. And I know for me personally, if my support crew are organised, or I feel they're organised, or I think they're organised, even if they're no longer organised, then it works. So while as a runner, I always plan and have everything sorted out in boxes and how I want it, they'll just rearrange the vehicle to suit themselves so it works better for them. So it's obviously, often it's not just the runner's perspective, it's important. It's about what's most functional for the support crew. And, they change the plan to suit themselves. But if that means the plan works better for them and creates less risk for the runner, then that's a good thing.
Yeah. Hully, I mean, same experience, same kind of
thought? Mate, I think each runner's a little bit different as well. And, as the race gets on, they get fatigued and tired, and, some of the decision-making processes aren't that wise. So, as Greg said, that open communication and just also, I think, knowing what your runner likes and dislikes as well, and just keep an eye on your runner. and just and also helps if the crew and the runner are well connected. Sometimes you get crews that people just come in as replacement and they don't actually know the runner, or they know them not that well. So that sometimes can lead to challenges along the way. But yeah, I think open communication is pretty fundamental, and just watching over them. I mean, it's your job to get to the finish line. It's not their job. So it's their job to get the start, and it's the crew's job to get them to the finish.
I absolutely agree, and I think I've always felt, Hully, that when I start the race, I'm organising the crew and making sure they're all sorted, and as it goes on, they're just organising me, and I'm just happily running along. Well, maybe not happily, but I'm running along anyway.
Plotting, mate, plotting for you.
Yeah, plotting for me, and also it's also knowing when to give love and when to give tough love as well.
Just coming back to the earlier point, sorry,
and
Greg,
sometimes. No, I was just going to say, and sometimes it's really important to give a lot love, and other times it's really important to give tough love.
like kick them up the arse.
Yeah, I think I've had that from both of you guys on both counts.
I mean, yeah, you're right. Tough love is really important because they're going to want to stop. They're going to want to sit down in the chair. They're going to waste time, and they may want to quit. And it's the crew that's going to talk them through those tough times. So, if they're just tired and they want to stop because they're tired, well, that's no reason to quit. You do give them a kick up the butt and get them to move along. So, but, at the same time, you've got to watch for their vital signs. If it's been a hot day, are they dehydrated? Are they weeing enough? Are they drinking enough? You've got to monitor and measure that and look after their welfare. And then if their welfare is compromised at all, then it's the crew that's going to have to, make the decision sometimes to pull them out. But at the same time, it's the crew that's going to keep them going by, as Greg said, a little bit of tough love, a bit of encouragement, one might say.
Yeah. And there's a few Hullyisms along the way. I remember one being beware the chair.
Beware the chair. I wasn't even allowed. I had a Winnebago when I did it. I wasn't even allowed in the Winnebago.
There you go.
Tough.
Hully, just you mentioned it there, but how do you go about building the familiarity between the support crew and the runner?
Well, hopefully that's done before the race starts, Mickey. But if it's not, it's about listening and watching and learning. There's going to be someone in your team that's going to be the support crew team captain or team chief, who hopefully knows the runner the best. So listening, learning, and just doing what you need to, knowing your role in the team as well. So, it's really important that the crew rest as well. So who's sleeping, who's driving, who's making sure nutrition's on track, and who's pacing after, when you can start pacing. So just having that rotation around. I think when I did it, I had 3 people with me, and they were really good people, but we also had walkie-talkies. So the person that was pacing the runner had a walkie-talkie, and as you're getting towards the support car, they'd walkie-talkie through a radio through to say, he needs this, he needs that. And the next person coming out to run beside me already had that stuff. And so there was no stopping, there was no excuse, you just kept going. So it was a good little system we had going. And that worked for me. It may not work for everybody else, but certainly something that we learned in terms of saving time, because it's precious time out there. So you've got to be as efficient as you possibly can.
Greg, same question. How do you get that familiarity between the support crew and the actual runner happening?
I think it's briefing them on, as a runner, on your expectations. And by that, I don't mean draconian necessarily, but it's about being sort of clear what you want. Also, when you're in your down spots, what are the things you're likely to look for? What are the tips and tricks to help you when you're struggling with that? Hully's right, you want people who know you well, who know your not just your running capability, but your mental capability, when to give you tough love, when to give you good love, when to anticipate your needs as well with that, when to surprise you with treats and different things to help either keep you motivated or extra energy and those sorts of pieces. And a lot of that's around your selection crew, with people who bring different things at different times, but you want, again, operating as a unit, and like all things, even though they might not necessarily be the tightest of units at the start, usually by the end they certainly are, and they want to come back. And I know there's one or two runners from last year who had crews who were first-time crews, or had a number of members who were actually first-time crewing.
Yeah.
And I know we were a little nervous about that. Those crews actually did well, and they're banging down the door to come back.
Keep going.
That's good.
Cool. Hully, you mentioned there about some of the rotation of the crew. What does a support plan look like from your perspective?
You just got to try and keep the runners, sort of support crew fresh. So you know, if you're driving, like, you know, keep it short, and keep it so that the support crew are rotating on a regular basis, so they're not someone's not stuck behind the wheel of the car for 4 hours or 2 hours. So, you know, hour little rotations around in terms of what your roles are. You know, little things like just getting out of the driver's seat into the passenger seat. It makes a massive difference to the experience for the crew as well. So mixing it up a bit, but also at the same time keeping it fun as well. Have a bit of fun out there. That's really important for the crew. Because, as Greg said before, if the crew is happy, the runner's going to be happy. So little surprises in there doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll probably add to that, Mickey, and it's always one of the hardest things is to get some sleep and rest on that first day for at least one of the crew members who will be doing it tougher through the graveyard shift. And it's we do see it where because of the excitement, the race is on, it's the start, there's still a lot of people, everyone hasn't really spread out that much. You know, all the crews are up and have a lot of energy, and then when it gets to the graveyard shift later, you still need one, you know, at least one certainly fresh crew member, ideally two. And it's really important that you know, a crew member tries to get some sleep during the day. I know I've actually been in the unfortunate situation where one got sleep where I didn't want them to, and you know, just that happens and you deal with it.
So, I mean, how do you make sure the crew then actually does get the sleep they need, they get the nutrition they need, they get the hydration they need?
I'll jump in before Hully, but like for me, I know I'll consider their food needs, even though they say they'll take care of it. And that particularly is important with a pacer, but I'll organise food and treats and stuff. They'll also usually get their own or bring some of their own stuff as well. So that's sort of almost taking care of with that. You can't make them sleep. You just got to encourage them. Again, if you've got a race plan and they are really there to support you, they'll adapt to that and work through it. To Hully's point, freshening, trying to keep themselves fresh is really important. You can't control what goes on inside the van. Once that race starts, you can control what goes on outside it, and it's up to them to really make it work for you. And to Hully's point, you start, but they've got to get you there. And if they're not in good shape, they won't do that.
I think it's the element of trust. I think it's the element of trust too, Mickey and Greg. Like, you got to trust your crew. You got to know that they're there for you as well. So they're not there to muck around. They're there to get the job done. So you know, they're going to be tired and fatigued at the end of the trip. There's no two ways about it, because it's not their normal sleep patterns to be doing what they're doing for supporting the runners. So you know, and everyone needs different amounts of sleep as well. And some people, you might have a shift worker in your crew who's okay, been awake all night, and he or she may sleep during the day. So you just work out your team and your dynamics of the team around the individuals in the team, and it's what works best for the team is going to work best for the runner.
Yeah. So how do you stay at the top of your game so that you can provide the best possible support to your runner? I mean, we talk about sleep, making sure you get it. You talk about like food, nutrition. Just mentally, what do you do?
You also, like, there's times when the runners are by themselves and you've got to amuse yourself. So have some good tunes, you know, a few other little things, you know, the odd bit of discreet nudity on the course doesn't hurt anybody. And just enjoy it. You're going to have fun out there as well. So it's not a chore or a task. It's like, yeah, just whatever works for the crew. And also at the checkpoints, you talk to the other crews and get to know people and just be friendly and, you know, share experiences along the way.
Yeah. Which is
Yeah,
really important.
it's a camaraderie. That's a big thing. It's not just one runner and his crew. It's the whole busload of people following the runners. Whilst they're all spread out most of the way, but when they get to checkpoints, don't sit in your car or just go and talk to other people and, you know, get to know people.
Yeah, great advice. Greg?
I think that's one of the special elements we've got with Kosci, Kosci and Mickey is, you know, everyone starts together. They may not necessarily know each other. Over the course of day and a half, 2 days, or 2 days, the best part of 2 days for others. You know, you get to see other crews. You may form some light friendships, and then you get to spend a lot of time together at the end of the race, which is fantastic. I know I've formed some really good friendships with other crew and other people, you know, post the race. It is fantastic. Certainly the crew is there to get you to the end, but part of what Kosci Kosci offers is the experience. And, you know, there are very few events and races where you can, as a crew, see pretty well, virtually, except for the first 4K, pretty well the whole race with your runner. I know the first 20K you can't actually support per se, but you got 220K where you can be with your runner. And I know one of our support crews last year, they got to a father got to watch his son for the whole event, and he just thought that was so special, and the whole experience. And that's again what makes Kosci Kosci a little bit different.
Cool. So, I mean, the runner, we spoke about this last week, and it is the runner goes through like several peaks and troughs, and the same can be said about the support crew. How do you respond to like the actual runners' peaks and troughs, and then your own?
Yeah, it's always a challenge, Mickey, especially if you're all down together. That's a recipe for disaster. So, again, I think we touched on it before. It's just about like knowing what your runner's mental mindset's like. You knowing when he's going through a bad time. You know how he responds to that. So whether it's a treat or whether it's you know, just a quiet word of encouragement as you're walking on the track, or sometimes it's a distraction. He could be telling some jokes just to get his mind off what he's doing. Inappropriate jokes always are good. And there's some good stories. You start telling stories. I heard some good stories off my crew. Some things I can't repeat, but they really helped you get out of that lull when you're tired and fatigued. And so, you know, some people don't like to be spoken to. They just want to be in their own little zone when they're, you know, going up that hill. So again, if you think talking to them is going to be beneficial, well, then have a chat. If not, give them their space. So yeah,
but it comes down to actually knowing your support. Knowing your runner.
Yeah, it does, and that's why it's really important to have at least one or hopefully two of the crew that know the runner pretty well.
And you learn a lot about people in the Dalgety Plain in the middle of the night, in the wee small hours when you got rocks jumping out at you, or you think they're moving. Those sorts of elements, and again, you learn a lot about yourself, and you learn a lot about other people who are with you at that stage as well. And again, it's whether it's distraction, whether it is just move your backside, you know, whatever it is. And I think for the crew, it's about keeping that fun element and enjoyment piece. If you're enjoying the race, keep enjoying it. Don't get down and turn it into despair. You need that. If the more you're up, the more your runner is up.
Cheers, Greg. So I'm just rhyming off the questions here, but if anybody does have any questions, feel free to push them into the chat. Next question from me, though, is I'll fire it off to Hully first. What's your worst nightmare with being a support crew? You know, I've heard of people.
Yeah, I guess doing something that's silly. You make a silly mistake you let your runner down, or you know, a mechanical fault. Something's out of your control. That'd be horrendous if you couldn't support them. So, unfortunately, I've had no nightmares really with supporting people. We've always had a good time, but we've had a plan going into it. So you try and plan for those sort of things. So, you know, this is a basic. You make sure you've got enough fuel in your car. Make sure you've got oil in there. You make sure you've got the essentials. So, yeah, and know the course as well. you don't want to get lost out there and have your runner looking for you. So, yeah, thankfully, I can honestly say in the races I've crewed, we haven't had any real bad nightmares. And every runner, or even in other events where I've crewed, everyone sort of got to the finish line, so which is really important.
Yeah, I think it's the 7 Ps, isn't it?
Poor
Prior preparation and planning prevents
piss
poor
poor
performance.
I think probably just add to, for this, it'll be not filling up with petrol in Eden, and then realising when you get halfway to Cathcart that there's no fuel and you're low, and where are you going to go? One of the other things, if even though it's well signposted, if anyone's going to miss a turn, it seems to be going up the hill out of Cathcart, that first turn right, and that can cost 10k, 20k, and that's going to be soul destroying for people. The other element is, from a race organizer perspective, we want people to park in the right places, be safe, make sure they get the right spots off road. We don't want to be getting time penalties. We don't want to do that. We just want people to do the right thing, which is about safety for their runner. And if they do that, everything works. And I'd hate to have to be a crew member to tell a runner, we've docked you, 20 minutes or half an hour or whatever at Charlotte Pass, or alternatively, sorry, I didn't bother to tell you you'd missed the turn. I just blindly went with you, assuming you knew the course, despite the course details being well signed, well posted, all the details being there. That's a tough conversation to have to a runner.
Thanks, Greg. Yep. Couple more questions, and then if anybody else has got any questions, again, feel free to chime in. Andy, we'll take your question at the end, mate. Hully, I know you've kind of crewed for several events for several people, but what do you personally get out of being a support crew?
It's just the joy of seeing someone finish, Mickey, and the camaraderie of the teamwork, and it's I enjoy it because I've been on both sides of the fence. So, and it's just a good way to help people out, because they can't do it by themselves. They need support crew. And you know what sacrifice they've made to get to the start line, and you've been asked to support and help them for a reason. One, you're a friend, or you're a fellow runner, and so there's an element of trust there. Generally, hopefully, you don't want to, you don't want to make sure you're trustworthy. So I just get the joy out of seeing people achieve their goals. It's that simple.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Greg, the same?
I think, yeah, it's the whole experience. It's the end, I suppose. Firstly, it's the end-to-end experience, very much so, and then the other piece is just having a plan, but seeing stuff happen and just letting your plan unfold, and then adapting as you need to, and working with that, not against it. But certainly the satisfaction comes from not just the finish, but it's the people you meet, it's the stories along the way, it's being organised, adapting to it, but having a lot of fun. So when you look back, be it a week later, 2 days later, or on the van all the way back to wherever you came from, you're talking large about it and what a great time you had. Again, from a runner perspective, it's great to see some of the friendships, the deeper friendships that form within your support crew. Number one. As a support crew member, it's fantastic to sit around and tell tall tales, and that seem to get taller every year, and just to be part of something that's really enjoyable. But again, executing correctly and getting your runner there.
Yeah. Got a question that's come through. Maybe fire this off to you, Greg. First, what's the ideal support vehicle look like for you?
Well, first of all, you should try not to get in it, so it doesn't matter what it looks like so much on the inside. I suppose I'll be honest. Look, for me, firstly, it's something which is the appropriate size, not too big, but it's well organised. And I'll pack it however I want, but then the support crew will organise it to suit themselves and what works best for them. We're things that are very easily able to be found, be it wet weather gear, be it night gear, be it additional clothing, be it the mandatory gear to get up the mountain, that it's there and it's sorted and it's organised. So it's about, I suppose, an organised van, number one. It's depending on your crew, it's the level of comfort for them. You want them to be comfortable as well. And I used to always make sure I had an extra comfortable vehicle because my wife, Julie, was crewing for me a lot of times. So I'd always make sure there's also her needs were met, but, you know, extra softer toilet paper, all those, just little things like that. So the crew are comfortable and it makes their job easier and they feel relaxed with it as well. So it's about for me, it's about being organised and having an appropriate vehicle that everybody is comfortable in.
Hully?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for me, it was all about the comfort for my crew. So I made sure I hired a Winnebago, paid for it all, made sure all the food was in, like Greg said before, but I wanted to make sure there was a bed for them, a toilet, and a shower and hot water. Just those three things. If they can rest instead of lying in the backseat of a car, or, you know, they'd a chance to go to the toilet in peace and maybe grab a shower to freshen up, they're going to feel better. And so that was, you know, my decision, and they were happy that, you know, I got them a Winnebago as opposed to a little minivan or a station wagon or something like that. So,
yeah,
crew comfort is the key.
Cool. Penultimate question: what hints and tips can you offer any newbie support crews?
I think we covered most of it, Mickey. Like, have fun, listen, watch, and learn from other crews and outside your crew or within your crew, the support people in your crew, and just be willing to help. Do whatever the runner wants you to do, whether it's change his shoes, take his socks off, dress his blisters, whatever. You're there to help the runner, so no job's too small, and you work for them, and you got to look after them.
Nice response, Greg.
First of all, enjoy the experience, and that is meet other people, meet other crews. You will see a lot of constant cars. Get to know them, take the opportunity, look at the countryside you're in. You'll run through and being or part of some beautiful countryside, and well away from the cities. Enjoy it. It is special. So do look at your surrounds, look beyond the roads, look to the hills, look deep into the paddocks, look at the sky at night out there. It's just astounding. So enjoy the experience, make the most of it, make sure you adapt your race plan depending on what happens, and get your runner do what you need to do to get your runner to the finish line.
Nice response. But keep an eye on your runner as well, yeah? As well as the night sky. Yeah, last question, and I'm a wee bit fearful of asking this, but try and keep your responses as clean as possible. What's the funniest anecdote that you can recount from being a support crew?
Oh, Greg, you better go first on this one.
I don't know where I want to go with it. I'll probably take the other side of it. I'm going to take the runner's perspective. A couple of instances. One is seeing going past a very sheepish support crew, sort of trying to hold on to a van that had half slid down an embankment and trying to show that it wasn't. And then another time being really steamed up and cranky, not at anything else, just the emotions of a race, and having a support crew locked in a van, scared to get out because of the abuse they would cop, and just roll along slowly beside me while I let my anger out upon the whole world. It was just funny that looking across the crew, it was like watching pickled people shoved into a van. It's funny.
I've never seen that side of you. Jeez.
I think you were with me that day, hiding in the van.
Was I? I don't recall that. All right, Hully, go for it.
Mickey. For those who know the legendary Wayne Gregory, Blue Dog, I was fortunate enough to spend a coast to Kosci with him crewing, and he just, he beats to his own drum, that guy, and so he found it hilarious to be nude half the time along the course. So there's some mannequins along the way there on the left-hand side, I think. So he went off ahead and stripped down naked and made sure that I told the runner to look up at the mannequins. They're really good. They're really lifelike. And there's our blue dog up there, butt naked in the middle of the day in that paddock. And then we get up to the top of Baloka Ranges. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. He goes ahead and he's sitting down having a beer. I go, what are you doing? Like, he goes, oh, I just feel as though I've come off night shift. When I come off night shift as a fiery, I'd have a beer. So it's beer o'clock time for me. So he's having a beer up there. And then again, we were heading into Jindy. No, the other side of Jindabyne, heading up the mountain. We're waiting for the runners to come through. We may have played a bit of nude cricket on the side of the road for a bit. So it helped pass the time. It was obviously warm that day.
Yeah. I mean, I won't kind of divulge too much, but Hully and me have got a mate that's in the US, and he did the race across America. It's a cycle race. You go from east to west, or west to east, sorry, and it's 5,000 kilometres. You have to do it in 12 days. And Hully actually indulged in a little bit of nudity in the kind of the Nevada desert, and that definitely buoyed and raised Frank's spirits in that particular day.
It was, well, what it was, you had a bucket, the poo bucket, and there was hundreds of kilometres between riders. So I needed to go, so I thought I'd just strip naked on the side of the highway and sit in the poo bucket. And as he come past, I stood up and cheered him on. So he was very happy.
All right. I was trying to keep it clean, but I actually fell into my own trap. Yeah, guys, just the kind of the importance of support crew cannot be underestimated or understated. I mean, for those that know, I did the race across America as well. And at the very outset, I was of the opinion that, it'll be me kind of that does this, and then me gets myself to the finish line. When I actually got to the finish line, I realised it was 25% me, 75% crew. It really is, as Hully said, you need to get yourself to the start line, but it's actually your support crew that gets you to the finish line. So thanks very much, Hully, for those insights. Greg, thanks very much for your insights once again. There's one final question that Andy's posed, and it's just a general question before he forgets. And he's asking what the process is at checkpoints. The crew and runners need to be there together. Yes, Andy, they do, because the actual support crew chief needs to phone in your time. So they need to be at the checkpoint together at the same time. Anybody get any quick questions, comments? Otherwise, we're done for the evening. Okay, thanks everyone for joining us. And again, thanks to Hully and thanks to Greg. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, Greg.
Take care.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much, guys. Bye.
No worries.